All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Harlan Icons, episode 4. Today we have Jan Kloewer here with us. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And let's start with growing up. Where you grew up, when you were born, just what you remember from, let's say, before high school.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised on a farm until I was in 5th grade, and I attended country school, which is Hemlock Country School, and one room. My teacher was Katie Johansson. I'll never forget her. She had a big influence. She really favored me, and I liked her a lot.
So
I had a good start.
let's pause there for a second. So what town were you?
Okay, it was west of Portsmouth.
West of Portsmouth. Okay, so we're on a farm. And in my U.S. history class, we just got done talking about one-room schoolhouses. So what can you tell us about, it was called Hemlock.
Hemlock.
And it was out in the country, and there were a lot of one-room schoolhouses throughout Shelby County in the countryside.
Oh yeah, and I walked to school.
Right, and you walked to school.
Always.
What can you tell us about going to country school a little bit more in depth? You walked to school, obviously. What else was it like?
Well, there was the big potbelly stove in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
There was a recitation bench up in the front where we did the reading.
And what was the stove for?
For the heat.
Sure.
Big for the heat, yes. At recess, we went outside and played in games like, we hit the ball over the schoolhouse, Andy over, I don't know what it was called, and Red Rover, and like that. So I'm going way back, so
Sure.
I'm really showing my age.
Sure.
The country school and all that.
I know we talked about, again in my class, just last week actually, recitation bench. What was that? Recitation bench.
It's where it was a long bench, and we sat on it for reading class. We went up by the teacher.
Okay.
There might be 6 or 7 kids on the bench.
And they
took
worked
turns reading.
Excuse me. What would you say the teaching strategies were back then? Was it mostly memorization?
Oh, yes.
A lot of memorization
Yes.
of things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And being a public school, was there still religion in the school? Did you say any prayers or anything?
No.
Pretty much all the religion stayed out of it at that point too.
And penmanship was a big thing.
Yeah, and I remember talking about that, working a lot on cursive.
Yes, which
Okay.
they don't do that much anymore.
And what about grade levels? How were the grades separated in these country schools? Like, it was like K through high school, was it not? Or
We weren't separated.
so it was just all in one room, one teacher. And so how did the day happen? I'm just trying to imagine as a teacher, having people from kindergarten age all the way up to seniors in high school. How did the day go?
Well, we'd had our subjects, worked on our subjects, and just did what we had to do, and she had individual time for each one of us.
Okay. All right. And so was it grade-based? Still? Would they say you're in first grade, or is it more like you could be, let's say for what we'd call first, second, third today, they were kind of thrown together? Was it just based on ability?
Well, I think you were in a grade.
Okay.
But I know the reading, she called the grades up.
Okay.
We did the reading, but otherwise we just worked individual, and I believe she had us in groups. She called us together in groups probably.
Right.
And
okay. And so did that. So that was when you were in elementary.
Yes.
And then what happened after that, as far as?
I was at country school till 5th grade.
Till 5th grade.
We moved to town, and then I went.
Portsmouth.
Yes, and then I went to school at St. Mary's Catholic School in Portsmouth.
Okay.
And probably maybe a dozen in our class. And I was there until 8th grade when I moved to Harlan.
Okay, and was that different than the country school as far as the setup, or
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, how so?
It was more divided.
Okay,
You know.
more traditional, what we would think of school
You
today.
had your separate classes, separate rooms.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and why the move to Portsmouth?
Oh, we just wanted to get into town.
Into town?
Because my dad decided that he wasn't farming anymore.
Okay.
Well, my brother got killed in 1945 when I was 4 years old, and he was farming. And so after he got killed, he was killed in a car accident north of Harlan, coming home from a dance. And after he got killed, then my dad got out of the farming and came to town
I
and
see.
started working for lockers, Portsmouth, Panama, Persia lockers.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And then you make another move a couple years later. You moved to Harlan.
Yes,
And so what happened? Why'd you move to Harlan?
well, that was more for jobs too.
Okay, all right. And then you start going to Harlan schools.
Yes.
And so where was that located at that point in time?
That was located where the Turkelson Center is now.
Right.
Which the building, the school building is not there anymore.
Right,
And it was both junior high and high school.
right.
So I stayed there the whole time.
Okay,
And it was bigger and overwhelming to me,
Sure.
coming from the small schools.
yeah, right.
But I made friends and it,
Yeah,
Was-
I mean, you
was
get
it-
used to it. And what were the difference in class sizes from Harlan? Like, what would the class size be? What was your class size, like when you graduated?
when I graduated it was like 79.
79.
Mhm.
And just to give perspective for those out there that may not know, today it's about 100, anywhere from 120 to about 140. 140 is a pretty good size class here. When I started in the 1995, typical class size was about 160. But one thing that really floors me every time I hear it, in the 1970s it was like 300 a class.
Yes.
And so, now, we know that consolidation happened. I know a previous interview, Cindy Burchett mentioned that all the country schools closed down, I want to say early 60s. I don't know if you know, but that made class sizes a little bit bigger. But there was a consolidation with all the small towns coming that really made the class sizes bigger, I
Oh,
think, in
yes.
the early 1970s.
Yes.
But anyway, okay, so any other memories from after you moved to Harlan? You moved to Harlan in 8th grade. So any other memories of your childhood prior to high school that you want to talk about?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so let's look at, you moved to Harlan in 1955, you said you were in 8th grade. What was Harlan like then? I mean, if you compare it today, how was it different size-wise? Was it, I mean, today we're around 5,000 people. Was it bigger, smaller?
I think it was pretty much the same. We didn't have all the businesses that we do now.
Mhm.
Seemed like I could walk uptown and do my shopping. We lived close to
Right.
downtown, and it was they had the Mickles drive-in where you drive in and get 5 hamburgers for $1 or something
Sure.
like that.
Sure.
And, the guys would go out and they'll have the hot cars and they'd go out south of Harlan and
Right.
try them out, test them out. See who's
Sure.
the fastest.
Okay, yep, yep.
And I remember just the different stores are all different and everything now then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, sure, sure.
They had the swimming pool, the roller skating rink.
Where was that at?
That was down where the Dairy Queen is now,
Okay,
and the sides opened up on the building. And so you could go and watch, or you could roller skate. Of course, I had to roller skate, so it was a lot of fun. That was a social.
okay, and then the movie theater, was that?
Drive-in movie
Drive-in
theater,
movie theater.
yes.
Oh, so the movie theater at the downtown was not,
No, the
That-
movie theater was across from the skating rink.
so it was, so that's the place to go, it was, and that was down where Dairy Queen is?
Yes,
And
across the street.
across the street,
Yes.
I mean, the movie theater was, okay,
You'd see how many you
interesting.
could get in a car, so you could get in for $2.
Sure, sure, it's $2 per car.
Something like that.
Yeah, wow, that's good, and yeah, pack them in.
Oh, yes.
I didn't realize that, that's interesting, okay. So let's go to high school then. What activities, sports, other activities that you're involved with in high school?
Well, they didn't have girls' sports, just intramurals. So I was involved in PEP Club and GRA. That was Girls Recreational Association. Don't ask me, I don't know what we did, but
Okay,
that was the club, so
It was
I
a club,
joined
so you
It was a
joined it,
club,
right.
yeah. And band and thespians, which was speech and
Mhm.
plays and stuff. And I think that's about 5 of them. FHA, that was Future Homemakers of America.
and for that, for people that don't, what was a homemaker, what would that club do?
Well, we took home ec.
Okay. Was it mostly girls?
Yes. No boys took home ec back
What
then.
was the purpose of that, would you say? Would just prepare them for
For being a homemaker,
basically a housewife?
yes.
And so, and that's obviously very, I mean, we still have home ec today, but boys and girls both take it today.
Yes.
Cooking and things, but it was really,
Yes.
so how would you say, I mean, how are girls treated in high school back then? I mean, were they mostly focused on get a job or get married after high school? Were there any college, were they pushed to college? How were girls
No.
treated?
No, I didn't even know there was a way to go to college.
So it wasn't really
Because
something you even thought
My
about?
parents couldn't afford it, so I didn't even consider it, which
Right.
I would have wanted. I wanted to. My best friend was going, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could go.
Mhm.
But I didn't know about scholarships or grants, or they didn't have all that.
Did they have guidance counselors back then?
No,
And so this was
I don't
based,
believe so.
so,
You're on
yeah.
your own.
yeah, you're on your
So-
own to figure that out.
So I took office practice class, and
Okay.
then they had what they called on-the-job training.
Mhm.
And so you could go work before you graduated.
Mhm.
That was a class to go out, be on the job. So I went to the city clerk's office, which also had the utilities in it at that time. And I worked there for Cliff Haskell.
Mhm.
And I loved office practice and English, algebra, and all that. So I worked there while I was in school, and then when I graduated, he offered me a job.
Okay,
And so then I stayed, that's where I worked then.
right outside of high school.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. And just going back and there were no girls' sports at that point in
No.
time, just for intramurals, as you said.
Intramurals, yeah.
Is that something that girls were upset about at that point in time, or did it
I
just
don't
something
think
they
so.
didn't even think about? It's just
No.
how it was.
No, it's just how it was. Just
Yeah.
watch the boys perform. And
Yeah. There's cheerleading, probably.
yes,
Yeah.
cheerleading and band. And,
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So let's go to post high school then. I know you've done a lot of things as far as jobs go. Let's highlight some of the jobs that you want to talk about. I know that working at the bank was probably your longest tenure of job.
The Home Federal Savings and Loan. I worked almost 20 years there.
Right. So let's talk about that. What your position was there and what you did and the changes that you might have seen over the years. And
Okay, well, I stayed at City Hall, and I got married in 1963 and started with my family. And so then I was there 7 years altogether, and decided that I would be part-time because we had started our family, and
right.
I didn't want to be gone all the time.
Sure.
And so then Cliff let me do work at home for the city, and then I started doing work for Booth Enterprises at home.
Okay.
And then it was in 1973 that I started at Home Federal Savings and Loan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Before that, though, I'll back up a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
1968 to 73, I worked for George Harlan, an attorney,
Okay.
part-time in his office, and did income tax and all the secretarial work that he had done. That was very interesting.
Sure, I bet it was.
And then in 73, 1971 to 73, I worked at the Shelby County Abstract Company.
Okay. And what did you do there?
And that is typing abstracts,
Okay.
proofing everything,
Right.
and doing lien searches at the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1973, I applied at the Home Federal Savings and Loan and got a job there. And I worked there for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. So
Long time, yeah.
a lot of variety of work,
Sure.
from teller to working in the loan department to doing accounts payable to accounts, just all the loans and savings and IRA and KIOs, and
Right. All
I
those,
got
yeah.
involved in a lot of departments.
Sure.
Yes. And that was when they started going to computer.
Right.
And I thought, oh, either I learn it or I'm going to not have this job.
Yes.
So I bit the bullet
And you learned it.
and learned the computer.
Oh, very good.
That's when
Yeah.
they first started going on computer.
Yes.
And then when I went to the bank, we had classes the bank sent us to classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because at first it was like, oh,
To learn computer skills.
to learn it, the kids now learn it from, well,
They just know
I
it.
have a 2-year-old
Yeah.
grandson that's on the phone and
Yes.
punching buttons, and I'm like, oh.
It's just it's their part of their life. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was Greek at first, but
Sure. Yeah.
I knew I had to do it, so.
Yeah.
So I was, yeah.
You
But
adapted.
there was a time in there where I was in between jobs, between Home
Okay.
Federal and Shelby County Bank. I was in between jobs. And so I did my curious mind, I just like to try different things. And
Mhm.
so I worked at the Merchant Memorial Hospital
Okay.
as a monitor there, and also part-time at the school. And I loved working at the school, working with the kids.
Okay. What did you do at the school?
Well, I was like one-on-one with this little gal that was a little bit, she was kind of sheltered and shy, and she just needed a little extra attention.
Right.
And then I worked in the resource room and helping those that needed a little extra help.
Yeah.
And did playground and
Yeah.
lunchroom, and I worked in the special ed and for Mrs. Clint.
Right.
And so I really liked the school.
Right.
So,
I know you had said that you kind of, at that point, wished that you would have gone into education. And
Yeah.
just so many more opportunities for women today, girls
Oh.
today.
Yes.
And they've come a long way, and I know
Yes.
we're talking about that in my classes as well now too. So, just different time, just a different time.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's so much easier now. There's
All right.
even when my children went to college, there was just you filled out these forms and if they played sports, they could get scholarships, and
Right.
so it was, it's just
Yeah.
there was a way to do it.
Right. Right. So let's talk about any other jobs that your activities that you've been involved with that you want to mention. Just focusing here in Harlan right now. I know you were part of the first athletic booster club. So really anything you could talk about that. When did that start? Do you remember?
Well, I think it was about 92,
Okay.
1992, I think, about, I'm guessing at that.
Okay.
But I was on the first ever board, and I was secretary and treasurer now, and then they divided those jobs up, I believe. But
Okay.
I did both of
A lot of
those.
work, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
And do you remember what the focus was at the very beginning?
Just to make the athletics better and make money so that they could have better uniforms, better equipment, better, and
Sure.
it's worked. It's still going, and there's still.
We've had a lot of success since 1992.
Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, and
Well,
even before, but a lot of championships and
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
successes.
built a new concession stand that used to be under the bleachers, and
Okay.
it was very inconvenient, and now they got, it's nice how they have it now. It's really
Sure.
nice.
And how long were you on the booster club, athletic booster club?
Well, maybe 2 years,
Okay.
I think.
All right.
2 years.
I know recently, 2008 you were inducted to the Hall of Fame. What explain that? And was that Hall of Fame? What Hall of Fame?
For being on the first booster club,
Okay.
they presented a plaque. I have a nice plaque for that.
Very nice.
But I was in Texas at the time, so the triplets accepted it for me,
Okay.
Asia, Nellie, and Hunter.
And we're talking. Was this at the state hall? We're talking the state Hall of Fame.
No.
No?
Local.
Local Hall of Fame.
Local.
Okay, the local.
That's
hall.
what they called it. That's what's in
Okay.
the plaque anyway. I
Okay,
think
well,
they
very good.
recognize people that have been on that
Sure,
board,
okay.
so that was very meaningful.
Yeah. Good.
And then I was treasurer on the board at Harlan Community Club,
Okay.
which does a lot for the community and weddings and dances and a lot of functions down there.
Right.
And then I was involved with the church in that I helped teach the 3rd graders, and I helped with the 7th graders,
Okay.
and lectured at church, and was on the guild. And
So just a lot of different activities over the years and jobs. So very very active.
and raising 4 kids.
Right.
And involved in their sports. And
Sure.
Yes.
So let's talk about your family for a little while then. You married Ray back in '63, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Talk about how you met Ray and what he did over the years. Briefly.
Well, okay. They used to dance. There was a place called the Chicken Hut, which is out where Iowa Western used to be,
Okay.
out south of the Dairy Queen.
Okay.
And in the basement, they had what they called the scratch pen, and they had a little bands down, like 3-piece bands down there, and we'd go down there and dance. And we could dance as long as we wanted to. They didn't close at any certain time or anything.
And are we talking high school or after high school?
This was after high school.
Okay. Okay.
This is after high school.
Okay.
Yes. And his brother introduced me to him, and so that's where we met. We got married in 1960.
And you knew his brother
Yes.
beforehand through
Yes.
just being around, working, or
Just, he was from Erling, and
okay.
yeah, I knew him,
Okay.
and he introduced us.
And how long did you know Ray before you got married? You remember?
A year.
Oh, so okay, so relatively pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you wanna talk about your children, a little bit?
Okay, well, Todd is the oldest, and he's in Des Moines, and works for Northwest Insurance, married Jill, who's from Sioux City, and they have 2 children,
Okay.
Jordan and Austin.
Mhm.
Kathy is second, and she's lives in, she married Mike from Oklahoma,
Okay,
and they live in Houston, and Mike has 3 children,
alright,
and they both work at ConocoPhillips in Houston. And then Rob married Tammy from Cherokee, and they live here in Harlan, and they're the parents of the triplets.
alright,
And Tammy has the beauty shop Secret Serenity downtown.
Right.
Rob travels for Merck Corporation.
okay,
Triplets are now enrolled at Grandview University.
okay. All playing, the girls are playing volleyball and
And
Hunter is playing football,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And then Troy's the youngest. And then he married Carrie from Dallas, and they have one son, Tobin, and another one on the way.
Okay,
And Troy works for Paul Mitchell Hair
mhm,
Products, and Carrie is a realtor in Dallas.
okay, alright, very good. And so, we definitely wanna talk about the JR's Country Steppers dance club or organization that you have. Let's talk about how that started, back in 1993.
Well, I started line dancing. I guess it was Denise Reinig that called me and wanted to know if I'd do line dance lessons, because I was going to her exercise classes and we were doing a line dance.
Mhm,
And I said, well, I don't know anything about teaching, but I'll do what I can.
okay,
And the equipment now is so much better. I borrowed, I started out with cassette tapes. That
Right.
didn't work so good. So then I borrowed a boom box from my son and
Mhm.
got some CDs.
cause this was probably when you first started, was it prior to 1993 when you first started? Or was it right around
It
that
could have
time?
been fall of '92
'Cause-
maybe.
Yeah, cause CDs were just starting to become,
Yes.
not, I wouldn't say common, but around.
And I started in the basement of the medical clinic. It was unfinished,
Mhm.
and then they eventually put the fitness center there.
Okay,
And I started there, and I had like 25 people. I'm like, oh. And I just did what I thought I to show them there.
right,
And then they needed that facility, so I said, well, if somebody can find me a place, well, I'll keep this going. So then I
Right.
had 2 places. They wanted me to come over to Erling,
Okay.
over there,
mhm,
and the country club. And so I said, okay, so I started out the country club, and I was amazed. I had all these people. I had like 50 people, and I'm like, wow.
yeah,
So there was a lot of interest back there,
well, good,
and it was a great thing. So after I finished at the country club, then I went over to Erling, and then Ray started going with me.
okay,
Because I said, I don't want to drive in the winter time, so would you go along with me to the dance lessons? Well, then he got involved in it too, so
Mhm.
it was a big thing. I taught lots of different places. I taught at Westridge School. I had a class there of
Mhm.
adults
right,
or youngsters that anybody could come. And I did have old and young, loved it.
mhm,
And finally wound up down in Corley, because it was a nice wooden floor, and it was a facility with a dining room.
yeah,
And it had a bar, and so we could,
mhm,
and so it just kept growing, and it was a year-round thing, I teach. And, I started out, I knew like 2 dances, and then I just kept learning more and more.
sure,
I had dance books and stuff. I'd learn some more dances,
okay,
or I'd go to lessons myself. And it was just a big thing for us. It just,
right,
we had parades, we did dance demos, we'd go to nursing homes.
all around the area, like, around the area, southwest Iowa, yeah,
And I thought, oh, if I could, my goal at one time is to get all of Shelby County, or all, in the area dancing.
mhm,
Well, then I had people coming from Council Bluffs and Atlantic and Omaha, and then we got into DJing. Not
okay,
only lessons, but we got into DJing.
DJing music,
So I thought, if we teach these lessons, we need to give people an opportunity to dance.
right,
So we bought some just entertainment center
Yeah.
some speakers, and we started having dances,
Mm-hmm.
and
And where would you have these like in Corley?
most of them in Corley, but then,
Yeah.
then it started, these people were meeting and they were getting married, and so then they wanted us to DJ, so then we got into DJing, just,
Mhm.
you know, we do birthday parties and anniversaries and
And
whatever,
when you're DJing, would you play country music mostly, or just everything?
anything they wanted,
Wow.
anything they wanted. And
Right.
I taught line dances, but I also taught what we call pattern dances, where we're in a circle.
Yeah.
Everybody does the same thing. We did two-step, we did waltzes, we did cha-chas, we just did everything
Mm-hmm.
that I could learn. And,
Ever do the Macarena?
oh yes, we did the Macarena.
Because that was big in the late '90s.
And the electric slide, and,
Yes.
now it's the Cuban shuffle.
Oh, yes.
And I got that going down in Texas now, so.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're still active.
I am.
Yeah.
But I gave up teaching because I had a job down there, so.
Sure.
But we had people coming, then I would go up to Lakeview and have dances, and just wherever anybody wanted music, I went to the city and DJ'd, and I was busy, we were busy.
Yeah,
We were putting on smiles.
Sure.
Having fun.
And I
So
know,
much fun. So many good people.
yeah,
Met
right.
so
Met
many
a lot
good
of
people.
different people, great people.
The highlight of the whole thing was chartering a bus to Nashville.
I was just gonna ask you about that.
That was the most fun vacation, I think, ever.
Right.
It was, and we danced on national TV at the Wild Horse Saloon in downtown Nashville.
Wow.
We just had the most time, you know, bus trips can be real boring, but ours was not boring ever.
Yeah.
We had music going, we were dancing in the aisles, and
Yeah.
it's just the greatest trip,
Wow.
greatest bunch of people,
Yeah, sure. That was fun.
yeah,
Fun.
we did. We had a good time.
And you mentioned that you were doing something in Texas when you go down to Texas over the winter.
Okay, well.
What is it that you do there?
Well, so we started, talked to people, and they talked about Texas, and I said, let's try it. So Ray and I took off, and we went down for like, the first year, like 2 weeks. And then the next year, we went for a month, and that's how it goes. You go for, you know, a short time, and then
Mhm.
just keeps, people end
Sure.
up going for like 6 months after a time. And so then the second year, I got into the dancing down there and started doing a little teaching down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got it built up down there too, so I was having really big classes down there.
And how big is that RV park?
The one I'm in now is around 900 people.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in a different one than when we first went down there.
Okay.
But I've got it going in both
Okay.
parks, the dancing, and
Right.
so that's what I.
Okay. And I'm going to come back to dancing here in a second, but the last question I want to ask you, is there anything else that you want to share before I ask you this, well, second to last question?
No, just.
Okay. All right, so you've lived in Harlan, obviously, most of your life. What do you think makes Harlan such a great place to live and raise a family?
Oh, it's a great place. The schools are great, community's great. They're so behind the sports. The sports are wonderful.
Mhm.
It's a great place to raise your kids,
Right.
and it's a great community. And you know, we don't have like a mall or whatever, but
Right.
we're close enough.
Sure. Yeah.
It's good. If the kids wanted to ride someplace on their bike, they could. If
Yeah.
they wanted to walk someplace, I don't think it's, but back when my kids were growing up, it was okay.
Right.
I always laugh because my kids would, when they got in high school, they would drive up to school, which we lived only a couple blocks. They'd
Mhm.
drive up to school to work out and go running and stuff.
Right.
I said, can't you just walk?
They
to
could have
school?"
just ran there and been part of their workout.
I know.
That's
I
kids.
know,
It's
but
still that's the way
kids.
today.
They had to have the
Still
car.
that way.
Had to have a car.
Right.
Yeah.
And I concur. It's a great community. So, all right. So the last question is: I've got to say, I've done a little line dancing over the years, but not a lot. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to teach me a step or two in front of you.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to shut the camera. I'm going to get things set up. So we'll be back. All right. So we're back. Here's Jan. She's going to be teaching me electric slide.
Yes.
And again, I apologize. I'm not very good. I will be behind her, watching her, making mistakes. We're going to be dancing to Brooks and Dunn Boot Scootin' Boogie. And here we go. All right.
I'll say 5, 6, 7. We'll go on one.
All right.
5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. back, 2, 3, hitch, rock, 2, 3, brush, start over. 1, 7, 8, back, 2, 3, hitch, rock, 2, 3, turn brush, 1, 2, 3, touch, left, 2, 3, touch, back, 2, 3, hitch, rock, 2, 3, turn brush, right, 2, 3, left, 2, 3, back, 2, 3, hitch, rock, 2, 3, turn brush, line to the right, line to the left, back, hitch, rock, 2, 3, turn brush, line, left, back. Doing good, Chad.
All right, well, thank you. I think that's good. Thank you. I was behind her, so hopefully you didn't see that too much. And I think I would have gotten it had I practiced a little bit more. But
That's right.
again, we want to thank Jan for coming today
Thank you.
for the interview. You bet. Thank
very
you.
much.